Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Caroline Colas. I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our Lunch and Learn call today. It is really going to be renamed the Positivity Hour, and today we are going to be talking about learn and living an awe-filled life with Jane Farnham. Awe is an often overlooked source of inspiration for us, and it is a way that helps us elevate our day-to-day life experience. So as adults, we have somehow trained ourselves to believe that we feel awe only in those rare moments when we see or experiencing something that is so spectacular it takes our breath away. And we so often think we must go to great lengths or travel to great destinations or distances to experience this feeling. However, Jane is going to share with us today her personal exploration of awe and the transcendent virtue that is expressed in the VIA character strengths known as appreciation of beauty and excellence. So I hope you're prepared to share Jane's passion and excitement for discovering awe in everyday moments. In fact, at the JCC, we talk about how you can make the ordinary extraordinary, and I'm looking forward to learning how to do that and how Jane does that. Jane is a pharmacist and founder of Farnham, a boutique strategic advisory firm that supports people in stepping more fully into their unique strengths to effectively engage others in getting the results that they desire. Drawing upon her passion for wellness and her more than 20 years of experience in innovating and shaping policy in healthcare, Jane partners with her clients to identify those positive actions that can have a holistic, systemic impact on their lives. She revels in teaching her clients how to access their intrinsic ability to heal themselves. Right? It's a lot of people don't realize that the body is genetically coded to heal. Right? It's genetically coded to find homeostasis, for our very survival. She is currently the current chair of the board of Canadian Organization for Rare Disorders, and her overall mission is to team with others to energetically address and solve complex problems and build on strengths in order to make a positive difference in people's lives. She holds her certificate in positive psychology from none other than the Whole Being Institute. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jane. I'm looking forward to talking with you and really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me, Caroline. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very excited to see some familiar faces and lots of smiling, positive faces.
Yeah. So the Whole Being Institute, as you know, I'm taking the certificate in positive psychology, and I will put a link in the chat for everybody if you want to sign up for that course. It's something that I highly recommend. It's been transformative, and I know that they're starting a new cohort soon. So if that's something anyone's considering, I really highly recommend it. But how did you come across the Whole Being Institute and get involved in this amazing organization?
Well, I agree with you, Caroline. It is very transformative. And I think like many people, I stumbled across it at Kripalu. I was taking a few days out of a really busy life and doing an R&R retreat at Kripalu. And I sat in on a talk by Maria Sirois, I think a common element in connecting many of us to it, on resilience. And I so connected with the material she was presenting. I was driving back to Canada from my retreat and stopping overnight in my upstate New York hotel room. And I just got onto my laptop and I started Googling all of this. And then I connected to positive psychology, and it connected me to the Whole Being Institute. And I just kind of made a decision there and then that this was something I needed to do.
Yeah, I find it's been really helpful for me in dealing with not only loss, but just the dark moments. The frustration. We're coming up on Thanksgiving, and I know that in America, a lot of people it's being recommended that people actually don't travel and go inside, and that's hitting hard because it's a time of, and you guys just had your Thanksgiving, I believe, in
We
Canada.
did.
Yeah, so I think that this topic that we're talking about, which is, how do we find awe in everyday moments and search for that, is going to be particularly relevant. And positive psychology in general is not about happyology, as we know. It's really about holding both, right? That dark and disappointment and loss, and actually elevating beyond that. So I'm just so excited about this conversation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, as am I. And that's one of the things that really drew me to positive psychology. It's a heavy time in many countries. And I was so attracted to this notion that you could make small incremental activities on a day-to-day basis that actually transform the lens through which you see your life and the rest of the world.
Yeah. I thought we would begin with a little mindfulness. And speaking of Maria Serrat, it's something that she taught me to do, or reminded me the power of, which is 3 deep breaths. And you can place your hands on your heart, or just out, or on your lap. It doesn't really matter. And you just go like this. Just inhale and exhale. And again. And exhale. And one more time. I like to close my eyes, but you don't have to. And when I remember to do that, when I remember to breathe, when I've been triggered, or when I'm feeling a little bit low, or even when I'm feeling excited, and I'm looking forward to you talking about that. Sometimes I hold my breath when I get excited. That helps me come into the body, and the body has such wisdom. And it seems like a lot of your work has been around the body wisdom and how we can heal ourselves too, and listen to that. Can you address that just a little bit before we start? Because it's such a fascinating part of your work.
Yes, it's been, I think, intuitively part of my life experience, part of my both personal journey and my professional journey. I have a very left brain education, science, and business. And I have long experimented with sort of alternative things to address some of my own health challenges and my family's health challenges. And I've really come to learn that um, it's much more than how we typically think about traditional medicine, sort of as central nervous system area of focus. It's really about energy and the world and our environment. And I've studied a little bit in epigenetics, and I've really come to understand how much our environment influences our outcomes.
Yeah, it's multifactorial. We are more complex, and our world is more complex than our mind likes to believe, right? We like to sort of label and sort things out and put them in their places, but we really are more complex. And that leads us right to our topic today, which is really about awe, which is more multidimensional, right? And I think that I am one of those people that thought of awe as something that I have to go to great lengths to experience. So I'm hoping that you can help me access it even today, even like on this call. That would be amazing.
I hope so, because like you, I understood it to be that way as well. And part of my exploration through the SIP program, I really started to dig into it. And that's what I'd like to share with you today.
Fantastic. Can I put up your it's a slideshow, and I know you're going to
Yes.
help me advance it and tell me what to do, and we've got some things. So once I do that, everyone, I won't be able to see the chat, so know that I love you, and Phoebe will be monitoring that. And here we go. 1 second. It has disappeared, so give me one moment. Let me find it. While I'm doing that, I don't know where it went.
Hmm.
That's really interesting. Oh, there we go. A little bit of a miracle when that works. Okay, now let me just see if I share this.
It's always miraculous to me when technology works.
I'm in awe already. Look at that. Look at that, Jane. Here we go. Oh, it worked. Can you see it?
Yes. Yes, we can
Fantastic.
see it. So if you could advance to the next slide,
Sure.
I'd
Oh,
like to just
okay.
open.
Did I do
w-
it right?
You did it. Perfect. So I'd like to just open with a question, and I can see the chat, and Phoebe can also see the chat. But if you, I'd love if you take a moment to just jot something in the chat about when was the last time you actually recall feeling awe?
Oh, and I'm going to write that down too.
Okay, I'm seeing something I can't remember. So it's been a long time visiting the mountains in Colorado and California. Now, I love that one. This morning, the night sky. Yesterday, during my hike, growth amidst the decay, the desert in Morocco, my backyard, the birth of my grandson, driving down the highway in the Adirondacks, picking up my new glasses at the optometrist, um, meeting a nurse who works with homeless men in her neighborhood or his or her neighborhood, hiking upstate, driving through beautiful canyons. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Caroline, the chat is going to keep going and I love it. And thank you for inspiring me.
And I'm wondering if that the evening I was talking about before we started the call with Gary Redfeather, who was one of our speakers who's on the call today, that I did a late night walk, and it was at night, and I could smell everything. And I'm wondering if that would qualify as awe.
It absolutely would. One of the things that I've learned through my research is that awe is defined differently by everyone. There are so many different sources of awe and inspiration. So, whatever gives you that feeling, you can classify as awe.
Fantastic. Do you want me to advance that?
Yes, please. So, I became very intrigued, as I told you, during my positive psychology studies um, about awe. I did my via character strengths, which I think many of you are familiar with. And my number one strength came up as appreciation of beauty and excellence. And I was kind of really sort of confused by that because I never actually thought of it as strength. I didn't even really realize it was a thing. And so I became really inspired to dig into all of the aspects of beauty and excellence. And awe is one of those aspects. It can be defined as a feeling of wonder and reverence. Vastness comes into the definition of awe. So it's a sense of being part of something that's larger from yourself. It's often described as being self-transcendent. And one of the quotes I found that I found so intriguing, it described it as the ultimate collective emotion. Barbara Fredrickson describes it as one of the top 10 positive emotions. So it's an emotion and it's also part of a character strength. And I found some really interesting things when I started to research awe. Like awe can actually transform our minds. A jolt of awe can actually have a positive impact on the nervous system. And one of the things that I really loved is experiencing awe can motivate people to engage in pro-social behavior. It can help us form into social collectives and transform us out of self-interest and into interest in other people. One of the researchers spoke about awe as being the defining attribute of our species. And that was very awe-inspiring to me. And one of the things that really inspires me, we were talking at the beginning about the heaviness that we're all feeling because of what's going on in our world and an impending election in your country and a pandemic. And it can actually be considered a counterpoint to narcissism and abuse of power. And when I read that, I thought it could not be more timely. It helps us move from an isolated self into a more integrated self. And it also supports us in breaking down us versus them thinking. I think that's something that we could use a whole lot more of at this juncture. So if you'd like to go on to the next.
Absolutely, and I love this, the quote, a sense of first sight, unencumbered by knowingness,
And
by
that's
Michael Pollan.
Yes, I loved that as well. And so that's why I wanted to include it, because if we think back to when we were children, we remember, or if we look and have the privilege of being in the presence of young children, and we look into these large eyes when they're seeing something for the first time. So one of the tricks for us as adults is to be able to find ways to get ourselves back into that state.
It reminds me of the beginner's mind, right?
Yes,
Jumping into
brilliant.
beginner's mind.
So I referenced the via character strength, appreciation of beauty and excellence, and it's a positive emotion, as we talked about just a moment ago, and it's also a character strength. And I know you had Ryan Nemick speak at one of your sessions. It's one of the transcendent virtues, along with gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality. And I was really intrigued by this because, first of all, I didn't realize it was a character strength. And then as I started to explore it, I realized it really had been present all of my life, and I was overusing it. And the overuse of appreciation and beauty and of excellence is the thing that is known as pursuit of perfectionism. And so I found that it's been an underlying theme through my entire life. I just happen to be focusing more on the overuse side than the stopping and reveling in the beautiful part of it. And so, as part of my positive psychology studies, I learned some tools and techniques, and it's really become transformative for me in terms of, I call it now a bit of an antidote to my tendency toward perfectionism.
And I've also heard that perfectionism, or being the word perfect, can be redefined as whole, complete,
Hmm.
right? And when I think of the Whole Being Institute, and when I think of the whole being, and I think of appreciation of beauty and excellence, sometimes it helps me, as I have that in one of my top 10, somewhere in there. I don't know which number it is, but I can think of, wait a second, how can I look at this as being whole, the whole of it, the complexity of it, the intricacy of it, the integration of it, versus, oh, I haven't done that little part or that little part or that little part perfectly.
It's a beautiful way to look at it, and learning to bring more awe into my life has been one of the little techniques that has allowed me to look at that beautiful whole side of it versus the trying to fix all the things that I feel aren't perfect.
Okay, let me see if I can advance.
So there's been, so research on awe is relatively new. In fact, it hasn't even really been studied until the early 2000s. And there's an organization called The Greater Good who has, I've included a set of references at the end, but they're a great organization to look into when you want to learn more about awe. And they've found that there are some really evidence-based benefits to embracing and experiencing more awe, everything from an improvement in your mood and life satisfaction to what we spoke about earlier, a greater sense of connectedness to other people, greater generosity and cooperation when we actually start to get outside of ourselves, there's actually some evidence now that's demonstrating a link to better health, a reduction in some chronic diseases, more humility, the ability to think more critically, decrease in materialism, and a perception of more time. And that's been something that I think many of us who have very busy lives struggle with, this sense of overwhelm. So being able to stop and actually embrace more time, or a perception of having more time, is a huge benefit I've found in my journey.
And I just think I want to invite everybody just to open their arms wherever you're sitting right now and spread your fingers and just, it's like Amy Covey's work, that work of body position. It just feels like so expansive. Like this could be a body position, as Mega Nancy Buttenheim talks to us about in embodied positive psychology, that, I'm filled with awe, I'm open, I'm ready.
Thank you, Caroline. That's really a beautiful way to embody it.
Next slide. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So I also became very intrigued by what gets in our way of allowing us to actually feel better. And one of the things that sort of came to my attention when I was preparing for this talk is this whole notion of hedonistic adaptation. And it's one of the things that gets in our way. And that's our tendency to return to the same place of happiness we were, regardless of whether something amazing happens, like we win the lottery, or something, really horrible happens. We tend to adapt to a relatively stable level. And so it's about jolting ourselves into a different state sometimes that allows us to incorporate more positive emotion and more positive feeling. And we spoke a moment ago about children. They don't have any trouble at all experiencing awe. We just get kind of jaded. We've seen it all before, and then it's almost like an addiction. We have to do more and more to kind of get that feeling again. And what I learned, and what I've been learning, is we really don't have to do anything really particularly special. We can find it everywhere in our day-to-day lives.
It occurs to me that it really is also connected to curiosity and exploration. And one of the things Dr. Sherry Kelly was on our Positivity Hour, our Lunch and Learn, and she was talking about digital devices and how just focusing in, and it seems to me like awe is about interacting, right? And looking and being interactive with. As a former preschool teacher myself, we were always encouraging the kids to play with, to interact with, to encounter. Is that a part of it too?
I feel it's a part of it because I listened to Dr. Kelly's talk as well, and I think we're becoming in so many ways smaller, we're becoming more isolated in our homes. And to me, awe is so much about looking outward, even if we're sitting inside our homes and we can look and experience the beauty of a tree or the sunshine or clouds outside our window. So to me, awe is something that's very expansive rather than something that's small and limiting. So you can move on if you like. Just like to play you a short video that's was very inspiring to me.
What is happiness? Can we find it in a new pair of shoes, a fast car, or a bigger house? Or does real happiness lie somewhere else? Hundreds of studies have proved that spending time in nature can make us feel better both in mind and body in a way that nothing else can. We wanted to find out whether simply watching footage of the natural world could have the same effect. Last year, we partnered with Professor Daka Keltner, an expert in human psychology and emotion at the University of California, Berkeley. For this project, he has reviewed over 150 scientific studies that explore the positive effect of nature on humans. We also asked over 7,500 people in 6 countries to tell us how they were feeling before and after watching Planet Earth 2 clips. This data showed significant increases in joy, contentment, curiosity, awe, amazement, and wonder, and clear reductions in tiredness and low energy. It even reduced stress, especially among younger viewers. These findings revealed that wildlife programs can cause viewers to experience positive emotions.
My study of human happiness has revealed that these emotions, amazement, wonder, and awe, are the foundations of a powerful form of real human happiness. Real happiness is a deeper, less transient form of happiness that can positively affect our health and well-being.
So by simply watching incredible footage of our natural world, you too can experience these uplifting emotions, helping you to be more connected with this amazing place we call home.
Thank you, Caroline. So to your point about curiosity, and this demonstrates that even if we are living in very challenging times and heavy times, we can even tune into a nature show and start to generate some of those experiences and those feelings. I wanted to just make a note about urban awe, since many of you are living and working in very large urban areas. I was very intrigued by the fact that there has been a fair bit of research on how to experience urban awe. So we tend to think of, going to the Himalayas or the Grand Canyon, but it's around us in our everyday lives. And there are all kinds of things you can do both inside and outside, just, standing and gazing up at a skyscraper and feeling just the amazement and the vastness of it, to art galleries, to gardens, to, I love the last one, just walking around with no destination in mind and feeling and seeing what you experience. So if you're interested in it, there's a fair bit of work being done on urban awe. And then the next area on the next slide that I was really intrigued by is workplace awe.
Okay, let me see if I can get that.
And there's some work actually being done out of Wharton now, University of Pennsylvania, on workplace awe. And I never had thought about it in that context. And it's what you spoke about a few minutes ago, elevating appreciation of beauty and excellence to a new level, with a real focus on the excellence aspect and really admiring excellence in the workplace. And we can do things even within our own workplaces. And I realize this is something that, I had always just intuitively tended to do, but I work better when my workplace is aesthetically pleasing, and it encourages people to view awe-inspiring videos like we just did. You can read about it, write about it, just walk around even in your workplace and find little things that give you that sense of awe.
Amazing.
And some of the research that I referred to a moment ago, and some of Dr. Keltner's work, is really starting to demonstrate that it can improve physical and mental health, lowering the risk of some diseases, clinical depression, heart disease. So it seems small, but it can have some very, very positive impacts. And so I'd like to just turn for a moment to why awe matters to me. And I told you a little bit about my exploration through the SIP program. And I've been finding it a bit of an antidote to my tendency to overuse and be very perfectionist. And I've also, over the years, studied the brain plasticity and the creation of new neural pathways. And so I found personally that engaging in intentional acts of awe has actually started to establish some new neural pathways in my brain. And so I'd like to tell you, if you'd like to flip to the next slide, just a little bit about my personal story and why I've really embraced it on deeply. I think there's one slide before that. Uh, if you can flip back one. Oh,
I
I guess
don't.
it got lost.
Okay.
It's okay. So the slide that somehow got missing was this little girl with a very sad face, and that was me. I have been interested in research on happiness since I became aware of it, because I was not born into a naturally happy family. I had a good family. I was well cared for. We were sort of a Protestant work ethic, British stiff upper lip kind of family. Didn't express a whole lot of emotion. And so I wouldn't say that my baseline level of happiness was particularly high. And then I started looking around at people and just saw these people who were laughing and light all the time. And I became very intrigued by them. And my partner's family jokes and laughs all the time. And, that was part of their family culture, but it wasn't for me. And so I decided to get really intentional during the process of my positive psychology program in studying happiness and particularly honing in on awe. And so while I was doing my program, I decided to take a little sojourn on my own. And I went to this place for 4 days called Grand Manan Island. So the Canadians on the call may recognize it. It's a small, beautiful, isolated island off the coast of New Brunswick. And I spent 4 days there. I think 3 of them were pouring rain, just exploring beautiful scenery and beautiful sights and savoring moments and attending their little local art gallery opening. And what I found was being really intentional about the experience elevated this whole feeling in me to an entirely new level. And it really started to expand the window in how I saw things. And I really realized that, intuitively it had been motivating me my entire life. I just sort of wasn't aware. And so I'd been doing some things without kind of really understanding why I was doing them. And so if you could flip to the next slide, please. Oh, I guess they got reversed. So that was the old me, the non-smiling me. And then we can go on to Sonia Lubomirski's work. So I became aware of positive psychology and happiness research probably a number of years before I started to study SIP. I saw some of the videos, I heard about Martin Seligman and some of his research, but I didn't fully understand that it was a thing until I really started studying with the Whole Being Institute. And I found this really fascinating, the work that Sonia Lubomirski has done, where she's found that, well, we do have a happiness set point. So, my family genetic happiness set point wasn't particularly high, but I did learn that we at least have 40%, and she says Sonia describes it as at least 40%. That we can engage in intentional activity and impact our happiness set point. I think I would have to say from my personal experience, I feel it's more than 40% because I feel the level of happiness that I experience in my life today is really radically greater than it was in my earlier life. And the other thing I really love about this is that I think, we tend to believe that positivity means you have to be happy all the time. And if you study positive psychology, you have to be a happy and upbeat person all the time. And that's actually not what it's about, because it's not realistic. And people who actually believe and embrace that, studies have shown, actually tend to get depressed because the pursuit of happiness can actually make us depressed because we're never experiencing what we're trying to achieve. And it's really about microbursts of happiness, and it's incremental over time, and it's engaging in things like many of the positive attributes, including awe. Kaizen change is about incremental change over time. And I also love the work of Barbara Fredrickson, who I know also spoke as part of this series, and her work on broaden and build. And so by broadening and building on positive experiences, we can create, it becomes greater than the sum of its parts. So it's about really prioritizing positivity versus thinking you can just sort of press a button and all of a sudden you're going to be a happy person.
I love Tal Ben-Shahar's example of the sun. We all know that if we look directly at the sun, it's not healthy for us. But we want to kind of look at it in a way, we want to take it in. We want to feel its warmth. We want to feel the light around. And that to approach happiness, like looking at the sun, you don't want to, like go at it really hard. You want to do it, embrace it in a lighter way.
Brilliant analogy. Thank you. So I'd like to just ask you to engage now in some things that inspire awe in you. And Caroline, you can flip to the next slide whenever you're ready. And I've just pulled, you can go to the next one. I pulled a few things, and I'd love you to start sharing in the chat, if you don't mind, some of the things.
Hang on one second.
That's okay.
I apologize. I'm not sure what happened. Let me just stop and share again.
It's technology.
Yeah, let me just fix this. Well, everybody, you can go ahead and go on, and then...
Yes, so I just have now, my next few slides are just triggering in on things that typically create a sense of awe in us. So the first slide, when we get to it, is going to be about nature. So I would love it if you would be willing to share some of the things in nature that inspire you. Phoebe thank you, Phoebe, for putting the question in the chat. And I noticed at the beginning when I asked you when the last time you experienced awe, many of you actually put examples from nature.
Did you want me to advance?
Yes,
slide?
Please.
Okay.
So I'm seeing things from Abby, the brilliance of autumn and just the subtle changes. From Gary, infinite colors, patterns, and smells. Walking in the woods, thank you, Vance. Elizabeth's mum plants and pumpkins. Beautiful sunset. Janet saw the northern lights a few nights ago. The smell of cherry blossoms in the spring. The return of swans to the harbor. Orange leaves falling. The perfect design of my pet parrots. Bird song, color, smell, sunrise, watching my dog run outside. I'm actually getting goosebumps, which is one of the hallmarks of awe as I'm reading these things. And part of Dr. Keltner's research talks about the physical expressions of awe that have become genetically embedded in us and actually probably part of our evolutionary viability. So thank you. So many great examples. My children's awe, twisted tree in Central Park, butterflies. Thank you for sharing so brilliantly, and you're inspiring me. If you don't mind advancing, Caroline, poetry. Poetry or great works of writing. I love it. I'm always looking for new ideas. So again, I would ask if you would share in the chat some of your own examples. But William Blake may have been one of the earliest, most brilliant positive psychologists because he saw the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildfire. And he understood holding infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. Just reading those words give me goosebumps. And I knew, thank you, Gary, I knew we were going to see David White. He's unbelievably inspiring. And Mary Oliver, thank you, Jennifer. She's incredibly inspiring. And Jennifer is a brilliant poet herself.
Someone sent me today this little phrase: may the gratitude in my heart kiss all the universe.
Beautiful. I love it. And thank you. I saw Araya Mountain Dreamer. I have her books. She's Canadian as well. And Alice Walker, Audre Lorde,
John
brilliant.
Donahue.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In fact, I've seen a couple of new ideas that I'll start to explore myself. Thank you. Caroline, if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next
Sure.
slide. So we have just a really brief musical interlude. Well, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing some music that also inspires you.
Oops, hang on one second. Let me try that again.
Bach. Oh, I love this Martin Luther King. Karen Drucker, I'm seeing coming up, who I was also introduced to through my positive psychology course. And whenever I'm having a particularly down on myself day, I put that on. Andreas Bocelli, Yusu and Dow are singing. Thank you. Brilliant. I love the ideas and inspiration. Thank you. So I think you already got a sneak preview of our next slide. Art is another form of awe for many of us, art and or architecture. And this was a piece of work that just particularly jumped out at me and made me feel happy and vibrant. Seeing from Joanne, she created a playlist of her favorite music and called it Hope. She plays it all the time. It's a list in process. And I do the same thing. I label my playlist with mostly positive titles. Nina, Simone.
We had Kelly McGonigal on our Lunch and Learn, and she talked about how there are songs that can motivate us and songs that also we can use to sort of manage the darkness of life, so that they hold both places, and that her playlists, sometimes when she wants to just feel intensely and make sense of something that doesn't make sense, she'll use music in that way. And then she'll also use music to motivate her and to get her up off the couch too.
I do exactly the same. So I was referring to some of my playlists that are the intense feeling ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
see.
both
Sorry.
are inspiring. Do you want to go to the next slide?
Yes, thank you for sharing
Yeah, of course.
so many of your own ideas. This one really intrigues me a lot. And today, I'm part of this brilliant JCC community, and I'm really grateful to be able to have an opportunity to engage with you. And community is, I believe, never more important than it is today. Community is about organizations, but community can also be about people who inspire us. And I'm sure we all have people in our own lives who've been incredibly inspirational to us. Please feel free to go ahead and share in the chat any organizations or people who I've already seen. A couple of Barack Obama has been mentioned, Martin Luther King, Jane Goodall. People and the excellence and the connection that they make have a very unique way of inspiring awe in us.
I was thinking about the community of the people of Gander during 9/11.
Yes.
You know, your Canadian kin that accepted so many. How many was, planes? It was thousands. It was
Yeah,
just
thousands
incredible.
of people come from away. If people haven't seen that musical, whenever we get to go back to the theater,
Yeah.
it's brilliant, and that was incredibly inspiring for me.
Yeah.
And so, Caroline, if you don't mind advancing to the next one. So what I also learned in preparing for this, and I would love it if you would share to see the kinds of things that you come up with that inspire awe in you. There are as many ways of experiencing awe, I think, as there are people. And it's really, really unique. And I'd love to hear.
You know, when you keep talking about I'd love to hear, it reminds me of the power of listening. And my understanding is that we have the capacity to talk much faster than we do to listen. But so it's you know, it's a little trip in our brain. But when we listen and when we take in what's unique about not only ourselves but those around us, it seems like there's a gateway to awe. Even just really pausing and listening to another and being curious about them.
And pausing, listening, savoring, so experiencing something again. So this exercise in hearing and seeing what you're all putting into the chat is very inspiring to me. And remembering something that inspired on us or made us feel positivity allows us to experience again for the first time.
It seems like this would also be a great dinner conversation to ask a question. You know, like what's something that makes you uniquely you, or what's something that inspired awe in you today, you know?
Yes. And so I think we can move on. And I just wanted to share with you really briefly in the next slide um, what I produced as part of my
Oops. Does that
project. So this is kind of the visual expression of my project, final project, Caroline, which I think is still ahead of you. It's a visual embodiment of a lot of the things, words and images that inspire me. And on a very personal level, people inspire me, both people in my life today, and I have many mentors and heroes who are no longer here. Certainly friends, my community, my brilliant partner. And on a very deeply personal note, my 23-year-old daughter is an incredible inspiration to me. She has been challenged with more things in life than most human beings should ever have to experience, and went through an incredibly challenging surgery this summer. And I found myself beyond inspired and in awe of her grit and resilience and strength and bravery. And so we can
beautiful?
find awe everywhere we look. And so if you'd like to move to the next slide. A few suggestions. There are so many things you can do. In the right corner, that's a journal that I actually have and found. And journaling and actually writing gives us an opportunity to remember and to savor. The 5% exercise, which I learned is one of the tools in my positive psychology studies, is one that actually really works for me. So I'll actually sit down and journal, and I'll say, if I had 5% more awe in my life, I would feel happier, feel lighter, have more fun, laugh more. It's almost like a sort of channel journaling experience where you see actually what comes out and you get to experience it. And I think just the whole practice of prioritizing positive psychology, you know, awe is what we're focusing on today, but there are so many positive areas that we can focus on: joy and gratitude and laughter, and just intentionally giving ourselves more opportunity to engage in these kinds of things lifts us and elevates our entire life experience. And so my goal is to continually go back and feel like I did as a child when I was experiencing things for the first time.
And I love the hot air balloon. You know, that those have, if you've ever seen them, in the Napa Valley where I grew up, they have fly the hot air balloons, and they're just magnificent. So thank you for that.
Yes, it has such a sense of expansiveness. And we just talked about some of the things, and I saw in there, I'd love to hear more from you about the things, sources of inspiration for you, but people we love and admire, just going out into our backyards, looking at trees, walking to your local museum or art gallery. One of the people that has studied awe a lot, and he has a number of really beautiful videos on YouTube, is Jason Silva. Not sure if you've heard of him, Caroline, but he's done a fair bit of research, and his videos are just filled with brilliant imagery. I like to read biographies of people who've just done really inspiring things. And as we just spoke about, the possibilities are as endless as there are people.
I'm going to stop the share for a minute because I noticed that we have somebody use their whiteboard, so it's okay. I think I can get rid of that if I stop share and then share again. Let me just see. And your photos are so beautiful, yeah. So there we go. So those birds.
So in closing, I'd like to go back to the first question again and just ask if you would share with the group in the chat, not only when, but what are you taking away from this today? Did you have an opportunity throughout the course of this last hour to experience a micro burst of awe or joy or positivity? Love it if you would share with us some of the things that you're taking away. And
well, for me, Jane, it's your slideshow. It's so beautiful, and how you put all this together, and listening to your voice, and I find myself tearing up a little bit. Does that happen when we experience awe?
I do.
In addition to the goosebumps.
I know I'm experiencing it when, I feel that emotion coming into my eyes, or I feel goosebumps, or I feel, sometimes I hear a piece of music or see a piece of art that just makes me almost shiver.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing really great things coming from people about appreciating the awe, beauty, and inspirations in our life, feeling positive connections to other people, discovering together. I love that sense of community. How we can experience it sitting in a seat across an ocean, halfway in the dark, no one else around, savoring great memories. The joy that Caroline exudes is an inspiration. Beautiful. Photos of family and friends. Elaine indicated that she realizes she experiences awe much more than she realized. And that was my experience. I realized in my life journey, I was actually unconsciously doing things that kind of sparked awe to make me feel better. So
gorgeous.
Thank
all
you.
These shares. Wow. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much. So I've left you with a few of the references that I used in preparing for the presentation. And then I just wanted to close with, you can flip through 2 more slides, just a really special thank you to Phoebe Atkinson, who was my TA while I was journeying through my positive psychology course, and has been, a tremendous mentor to me. And I did see several of the people on today who went through the SIP journey with me, and also a tremendous expression of gratitude to the people who support me in my everyday life, my partner Steve and my daughter Kaylee. So thank you so much. It's been really my pleasure to be part of this journey with you today.
And I feel like we should just love bomb Phoebe a little bit. So if anybody on the call has been, influenced, their life has been influenced by Phoebe, as mine has as well, please put something in the chat about her. I know she's probably going, oh my goodness, what are you doing? but because she has such humility. But for
Love
love of,
away.
but love away on her. Love on her for a moment, please. And I'm just going to stop the share. I want to reassure everybody that we will share the slide deck with you. And so you don't have to like be scrambling your words, writing everything down. And let's just see if you don't mind reading, Jane, some of the love bombs
Oh,
for Phoebe.
Phoebe rocks. Love on Phoebe. She is remarkable. Phoebe, you have to listen to this.
We're going to make you.
From Rick, enjoy the love and support. Smiley faces from Gary. Phoebe, you are so amazing.
And
Um,
and that's something that we can do. It's a wonderful technique that we learned in SIP too. Is just to just shower somebody with love, like to plan it. You can do it with your family members. It'd be a fun thing to do for Thanksgiving if you're not traveling. It's just everybody. These devices that we have can be used for connection and for awe too. To send pictures, decide like, okay, today we're going to like shower so and so with love and with appreciation, and you can do that so easily. And you can even do it with yourself too. Barbara Fredrickson talks about positivity portfolios, and it reminds me of this was a positivity portfolio of I think all of the emotions, at least for me, the positive emotions were in your slide deck. It was so beautiful, so very, very beautiful. Jane, before I put some messages for everybody in the chat about where they can go to different things, anything that you want to say? One of the things I was thinking about is that you were talking about being a left brain sort of person, and really this being science oriented. And I wonder if sometimes when we are that kind of critical thinker, if we go into that place and being really smart, of being a little bit judgmental and perfectionist, and as you said, the antidote is to access that right brain, that creativity, that sense, and that awe can help us. It's like the corpus callosum can help us integrate right in the middle, both sides. And if you have any research about that in relationship to neuroplasticity as a final thought.
I have seen the connection, sort of, it's the underpinning of a lot of the research that I've been following. I can certainly say that I am a living, breathing example and study in it. It has been absolutely transformative to my own life. And I'm just feeling such positive resonance from being part of this group and seeing the look on the faces that I'm seeing in the gallery. And so I have goosebumps now. So it's just been an absolute privilege and a pleasure for me to be part of this today. Thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I just want to put in the chat, if you guys will bear with me. And then Phoebe, can you unmute and just tell us about who is going to be coming on Thursday, if you don't mind?
Yes, we have, and thank you so much, Jane, for an absolutely elevating and awesome presentation. And on Thursday, we have another SIP alumni, Dana Hilmer, who has 3 steps to navigating life-changing crossroads, and she is a specialist in second half of life. So it should be a wonderful way to follow Jane's presentation today.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and I think I'm almost there. This has been a day for me of sharing technology. So here it is. I want to make sure that everyone has in the access to, if you are interested in the whole being positive psychology and taking a deeper dive, I want to make sure you have access to that, because we've got the whole being the free Spire check-in that people can look at, and I find that so useful to do every single day. And in addition to that, I believe we have all right, there we go. Here it is. I'm going to send it to you all so you can have that. There's $100 off if you want to do the SIP program. There's all kinds of things. This is not my forte, but I'm getting better at it, so that you can, and we'll send that to you with the recording. So everyone, as we enter into this, our election it's time to vote. I hope you're voting. It's an amazing way to express your part of our democracy. Super important. I know for the JCC, we're really, as an organization, mobilizing to help people do that. And also, I loved what you said, Jane, about awe being the antidote to feeling the turmoil inside, and also the narcissist element of things, and that it elevates us and helps us come together. And that is what we're going to be working on next week in our Lunch and Learn, ways that we can come together, no matter what the results of the election are, ways that we can come together, that we can find and use our humanity to elevate and be bigger and larger than whatever the outcome is. So I thank you for your help with this.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Go vote and keep coming back to the Positivity Hour from noon to 1 at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Jane, many blessings. Thanks, everybody.
Blessings to all. Have a great day.